Hi guys, my name's Alex. If you don't know who I am or if you can trust me, I have a video on my channel describing who I am and my history with playing the game competitively. If you don't care who I am or don't care if you can trust me, well, thanks for watching anyway and please enjoy the video. Today I wanted to start a 5-part series on an introduction to competitive Pokemon playing. So, I I know it can be tough to try to start playing entering the VGC, especially because their system runs on the doubles. They do double battles instead of singles. You don't get a lot of practice with that in game. So I want to introduce just like to if you're new, if you're old, whatever. I think you could find something here that's useful. If not, well, I'm sorry, but we'll just give it a shot. So this is my intro to competitive Pokemon gaming, part one. We're going to cover the rules of the game. The rules just came out for the 2014 season, so rules are always the most important part of any game. Make sure you don't get yourself disqualified, and sometimes use them to your advantage. So why don't we just get started? Okay, so for my series list, in case you guys are curious, today I'm doing part one, the rules. In the future, I'm going to cover understanding the metagame, building your team, playing your team, and improving your game. So if you like this one, please come back and check out the other ones. If not, well, thanks for making it this far. All right, step one, or not really step one, just the rules. You can't win the game if you don't know how it's played. There are 7 different categories to remember, and understanding them means you're going to be allowed to play. You won't get disqualified. They won't take away your items. You're going to have a good day. Mastering these rules can mean the difference between winning and losing. And you'll see what I mean some slides down the way. So what to expect? I've laid out all 7 things I'm going to be covering today. We're going to talk about game versions that are allowed in tournaments. We're going to talk about the standard format for Pokemon battling. Time limits, that's really important. Check that out for sure if you're just skipping around. Match resolution, even more important if you're, especially if you're new to the game and you're not familiar with the previous rules. That could definitely mean you the difference between winning and losing. Team construction rules, that'll talk about the new format and what's allowed. Sanctioned format, the new format and what's allowed. And then the new rule they instituted about all Pokemon being Kalos native. So I'm gonna touch on that too. So I'll just get started. 1. Game versions. So you have to use game cards from the region you're competing in. So if you're competing in a tournament in Europe, you got to use European game cards. If you're competing in North America, North American game card. Just making sure anyone out there who perhaps bought a game card somewhere else, you're not going to show up and have a bad time. Also, you got to use a 3DS system that is from the region you're competing in. I don't know why they have these rules, but they do. Just don't show up with a European 3DS at a North American tournament. Make sure, or if you travel somewhere to go to a different tournament, make sure you have that kind of DS. Probably there for them to sell more DSs, but I mean, it's their system, their rules. They can do what they want. When I say 3DS, that means the Nintendo 3DS, the 3DS XL, and the Nintendo 2DS all count. So those are all legal forms of systems to play with. 2, standard format. As I touched on earlier, the standard format is double battle. That means 2 Pokemon in each player's field at a time. You get to see the sprites of your opponent's team, and then you bring 6 Pokemon in your party, but you choose 4 to battle with at the start of each battle. So what we call it for short is C6, pick 4. You go up against your opponent, you get to see his 6 Pokemon, and then you choose the 4 you want to bring. You don't get to look at their attacks, you don't get to look at their stats or their items, just the sprite of the Pokemon, and if they have an item. Hopefully everyone's putting items on their Pokemon. If you're not, you're wasting, except for in the rarest of cases. But so yes, you're gonna see the sprite and if they're holding an item. All right, time limits. This is important, and this got updated from last season. You're gonna have 90 seconds to view your opponent's team and select your own team. So at the start of the match, you line your DSs up, and you get 90 seconds to look at your opponents are on the top screen, yours are on their bottom screen. You get to pick which 4 you want. You get 90 seconds for that. That is arguably the most important part of every battle. So make sure you use that time wisely. That time didn't get updated from last season, so that still stayed pretty solid. That's important. The next one did. You have 45 seconds to choose your moves / switch your Pokemon each turn. So every turn you get to choose what to attack, or if you want to switch. You get 45 seconds total for that. So total for both of your Pokemon, 45 seconds flat, that's it. 45 seconds to do whatever you want for your turn. It used to be 60 seconds, going down to 45 seconds. In really tough situations, I've definitely gone over the 45-second mark. So making sure you're playing quickly and you know what you're going to do is really important, especially in this new format. And this next thing's also been updated. There's a 15-minute total time limit for each battle. It used to be 20, and I've definitely gone to time before. Couple seasons ago, it was 15 minutes, and I know I ended up not making it into Worlds through the LCQ because I lost a game on time. So that time limit is something also to really pay attention to. More about time limits because they are pretty important. If the game goes to time, as in time runs out, the winner is determined in the following order of events. The player with the most remaining Pokemon wins. So that's the first thing the game checks. Who's ever got the most remaining Pokemon will win. If I have 4 Pokemon, my opponent has 3, and time runs out, I get the win. Now, if nobody has more remaining Pokemon, if you guys are tied, like let's say you each have 2 Pokemon left, the next indicator is the player with the higher average percentage of HP remaining on all of his or her Pokemon wins. So if I have a Pokemon with 10% HP left and a Pokemon with 20%, and my opponent has a Pokemon with 10% and a Pokemon with 100%, his average is way higher than my average, and he's going to take the game. Now, third, this very rarely ever happens, but if the average percentage of all your Pokemon match your opponent's, it's going to go down to the greatest total HP remaining. Now, for this to tie, I mean, like that, I've never even seen that, and I've been playing for a good time now. So that's incredible if that is a tie, but if your total HP remaining is equal to the total HP remaining on your opponent's Pokemon, then the game is considered a tie. Now, what that means, and should this ever happen to you, it's good to know, if the game ends in a draw during single elimination, so if it goes to all 3 of those steps and it's still a tie, during single elimination, a single sudden death game is played. So that means that the first player to have an advantage in a number of Pokemon at the end of a turn wins the game. So you set up, you go into another battle, you set up, and the first person to take the other Pokemon by the time the end of the turn goes. So like everyone gets to move on the field, and then the game checks if someone has more remaining Pokemon or not. If you're in the lead at that point, you win. If your opponent's in the lead by Pokemon, not by HP, by Pokemon, then they take the game. So that's cool. That probably will never happen to you, but just in case it does. 4, match resolution. Now this stuff is really important. So these are 4 different situations in which it seems like the game should be a tie, but it's not a tie because of the way that the game ended. So situation 1, the game ends by a move that kills both Pokemon, such as self-destructing, kills everything on the field, explosion, you kill yourself, you kill them too, Destiny Bond kills both you, Final Gambit kills both you. The result of that is the person that used the move loses the battle. So, don't self-destruct to try to end the game. It's not going to work out. Situation 2. The game ends with both Pokemon fainting due to recoil damage as the effect of a move. So, I have a nice long list here. Good to note, Struggle also counts in this. So, all those other recoil moves, including Struggle, or even Life Orb. So, Life Orb counts for this too. So the person that used any of these moves and both Pokemon got knocked out, you win the battle if you used it. So if I end the game by Brave Birding someone's Caterpie and we both die, I win because I used the move. If my Life Orb kills me but I also kill the other guy, I win the game. That kind of thing. That's important to know so you don't get afraid of doing this move to end the game. Situation 3, both Pokemon faint due to weather condition. Let's say hail's up and it kills everything on the field, and those were our last Pokemon. Or even Perish Song. Someone Perish Song's the last Pokemon on the field and everything faints. The player with the last Pokemon to faint wins. That's the order of fainting happens according to speed tier. So if we're under normal conditions, that means the slowest Pokemon is going to win the game. However, Trick Room can flip that up and stuff. So make sure you're keeping track of who's taking hail damage when. That'll also give you a good indicator of when people move during the turn order. So that's also important to know, especially if you're running a Perish Song team, which can be very useful. In situation 4, a Pokemon's ability or held item results in each player's final Pokemon fainting. This includes, but is not limited to, Rough Skin, Iron Barbs, Aftermath, Liquid Ooze, and items such as like the Rocky Helmet. So let's say I have, I don't know, 1 health Caterpie with Rocky Helmet, and someone tries to kill me, and my Rocky Helmet damage kills them too. The player who had the ability or held item wins the battle. That means I would take that game because I had that item. So those are 4 situations that are relatively likely to happen at some point. It's good to know how to deal with them, and you can play around it or you can play it to your advantage if you know them. So pay attention to those. Those are all really important. 5, team construction rules. This is some basic stuff just to make sure you're allowed to play. You cannot have 2 Pokemon with the same Pokedex number. No Rotom Wash and Rotom Heat. You can't do that. You can't do like 2 forms of the same. Like if Shaman was allowed, it's not allowed. But if it was, you couldn't use both forms of it because they have the same Pokedex number. Secondly, you cannot have 2 of the same items on your Pokemon. That means, yes, there's an item clause. You can't just throw leftovers on everything. 1 item for your whole team. That's it. I mean, you bring 6 items, but you can only, each Pokemon, they all have to be different. And 3, a player may only have moves they can learn legally in-game. This seems pretty straightforward. Through level up, TM, HM, egg moves through breeding, NPCs, or official Pokemon events or promotions. That just says don't hack moves onto your Pokemon. That's not going to be okay. 6, sanctioned format. Now this is what changes every year for sure, and this is what's really important to pay attention to because this is going to tell you what Pokemon are legal in the game, and that determines everything. So first of all, only Pokemon X and Y game cards or downloadable versions are permitted for use. So bring your X and Y. Don't bring Black 2. That's not going to fly. X and Y. Now, secondly, only Pokemon from the following Pokedexes can be used. Now look at those. Those are all from X and Y, and those are very specific. Like that's a pretty specific list of Pokemon. I can't name them all here because that's 400 something, Pokemon. But I do have a link below. You click it, it'll take you to a list. It'll show you as a list of all the Pokemon that are legal. It's already been filtered for you. Check it in the description. But pay attention to, because those are the ones that are going to be allowed. Don't bring anything else outside of that. Just numbers 1 to 150 in the Central Kalos, 1 to 153 in Coastal, and 1 to 147 in Mountain. Those are the only ones that are legal right now, and will be for the next season. For this season. 3, Pokemon must be placed in the battle box. Pretty simple enough. If you show up and they're not in the battle box, they're going to ask you to put them in the battle box. This is not like, don't be afraid of that. Just remember to put them in the battle box. 4, Pokemon are allowed to Mega Evolve. You can put on as many Mega Stones as you want. Don't forget, only 1 Pokemon can Mega Evolve a battle, but you're allowed to do it during battle if you want. Pokemon above level 50 will be leveled down. So that means your level 100 Charizard is perfectly legal. They'll just level it down for the battle, and then it'll go back up after the game's, after your battle's over. Hidden abilities are allowed, so anything you can get that's legal, that's hidden ability, go ahead, bring it. And players may use items that have been officially released via X and Y, Global Link, or an official event or promotion. Once again, just don't hack items. I don't know, they're really emphasizing that, but just don't put on something that you can't legally have. I had someone Custap Berry Explosion on me in a tournament, and Custap Berry wasn't legal, and he got an automatic loss from the tournament. So 7, Kalos Native. This is pretty cool, and I actually kind of like this, and don't like it for a variety of reasons. Pokemon must be caught or hatched in Pokemon X or Y in order to be eligible to participate. That means transferred Pokemon via Pokemon Bank or Poke Transporter are not native. They don't count, and you can't bring them. Even if they fall under one of those Pokedex, either Mountain, Coastal, or Central Kalos Pokedexes, if they aren't native to Kalos, which means caught or hatched in Kalos, which means X and Y, you can't bring it. You may transfer Pokemon from older generations to breed in X and Y, though. We assume it. Pokebank isn't out yet. Assuming that this is probably going to be legal, you could bring up your old guys and then breed new guys in Kalos, and those should be fine. So if you have your 6 perfect IV Ditto, bring that up, breed with it. That should be fine. Don't quote me on it because Pokebank isn't out yet, but it's pretty fair to assume that. Also, just for a fun fact, kinda, Pokemon obtained in X and Y have a blue pentagon underneath their sprite in the status screen. If your Pokemon doesn't have it, it's surely not legit. But the blue pentagon shows that your Pokemon was obtained in X and Y, which means it's Kalos native. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean it's legal to bring necessarily. There's a lot of Pokemon you can get in the game. I think that are Kalos native that aren't within the Pokedex. Just be sure that your Pokemon is in one of those 3 Pokedexes and has a blue pentagon. You should be good to go. If you don't know where the pentagon is, it's right there. I got that orange box surrounding it. That'll show you that it is Kalos native. And yeah, that's it, guys. That covers all of the rules that you really need to focus on. There are some sketch ones like, oh, if the game freezes, who wins? But, I mean, you can't do anything about that anyway. So, thanks for watching. Next time, I'm going to talk about analyzing the metagame. Now that you've got the rules down, we can start looking at which Pokemon are succeeding in the current metagame, which are failing, what strategies are prevalent, and what to stay away from. So I'm going to be talking about, relatively good ranked players, what their teams are, what they're using, what those Pokemon do. So if you liked it, come back, check it out. I'll try to link it as soon as the next video is up. It should be up next week, I hope, maybe earlier, depending on how inspired I am. And thanks for watching. If you thought it was cool, please let me know. I read all my comments. Try to. There's a lot, but I try to read them. And if you didn't, well, let me know that too. And yeah, so have a good weekend, guys. Or happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.